everyone, and welcome today. It's Sunday, April 5th, here in beautiful Brooks Hill, Florida. It's actually raining today, but we're still thinking it's really beautiful out. And I'm reaching out to you for a couple of reasons. One is because of the number of emails that I've been getting regarding this corona pandemic that we're all going through. Solutions, problems, questions, what to do, what not to do. And a lot of these questions you should already know the answer to. So the title of this video today is, are you currently an expert on corona? And if not, why not? In other words, if you're a SomaVeda practitioner or you're an otherwise health or medical practitioner, as of right now, considering what we've been through in the past several weeks and the increasing of quarantine and stay-at-home orders and all the hyperbole and panic-driven messages on virtually every kind of media, why have you not buckled down to become an expert on this issue of corona? And especially if you're in an industry like massage or massage therapy, which is supplemental to your SomaVeda practice, which has been virtually shut down by every state. So what are you doing? Okay, so if you're not currently an expert on corona, I really want to ask you, what have you been doing? Why not? Because as a therapist, as a healer, you should be an expert, able to counsel and give practical functional medicine solutions to your family, friends, and clients. And if not, shame on you. Why not? Why are you not functioning as the knowledgeable source person that you are certified and in some cases licensed to be? And certainly that source person that you've been telling everyone that you are up to this point. Okay? Now, if you are really digging deep and working it out and trying to get past the superficial, good on you and compliments to you. Keep doing what you're doing. But if you haven't been doing that so far, or your efforts toward becoming an expert have been less than stellar, then shame on you. Let's see if we can't come up with some strategies to get you on track to be the source person, practicing true medicine, practicing authentic natural medicine strategies that really everyone around you needs desperately right now. And yes, literally could be the difference between life or death for someone. Okay? So first thing I want to say is, of course, I'm the Dean of the SomaVeda College of Natural Medicine and the SomaVeda College of Ayurveda Medicine and the Thai Yoga Center. And we've been teaching full-time practitioner programs at all levels, from entry level to doctoral, for freaking ever, for quite a long time, as most of you know. And we teach this system called SomaVeda Integrated Traditional Therapies and SomaVeda Thai Yoga, Ayurveda, and Indigenous Medicine, where our school is a seminary of the Native American Indigenous Church and tribal organization. So we're teaching from the point of view of what we call true medicine, or a spiritually based natural medicine practice, which is suitable for ministers who are practicing medicine as their chirothesia, or as their sacerdotal duty, or as their God-given obligation to pass healing on in the world as their primary spiritual practice. And if you're new to all this, then God bless, and I really wish you to feel inclined to follow up and to learn more about practicing sacral medicine as a lifestyle and as a career and as an ethical obligation of a spiritual person. Now, going to those of you who've actually been through my classes, been through SomaVeda certification at whatever level. It could have been CTP1, Basic Practitioner, Ayurveda Lifestyle Counseling, Ayurveda Health Counselor, Yoga Therapist, teacher certification program or one of our several college degrees at SCNM. But in every single class, we take part of that class and we emphasize the fundamentals for fighting infections. Because, as I say often in class, it's the number one criticism of natural medicine as an industry is people will say, lay people especially, but also medical people, that where natural medicine breaks down or falls down is in fighting infections, which of course is a myth. It's not true, and there are more reasons than I can get into right now why that has been perpetuated and who that myth serves. But the truth is we have incredible strategies for fighting all forms of infections and complications of infections. So you've already got that. That's in your notes. Okay, so right now you could go get your notes from class and you could start reading some of the information or reviewing some of the information that you were previously given about natural remedies, natural strategies, and protocols for fighting infections. All infections. So from MRSA, methicillin, staphylococcus resistant strep infections, and so on, all the way to flus and colds, and coronavirus, SARS, MERS, and so on. We've given you those strategies all together, but I'm also going to remind you where you can get some updates and reminders for this stuff too. You were given in class fundamentals of treating all complicating factors leading to higher mortality in class. So what are complicating factors that lead to higher mortalities of all infections, not just corona? Well, cancer, heart disease, diabetes, chronic either subclinical or clinical infections like UTI, Candida, so on and so forth, all complicate severe infections regardless of what they are, and by the way, represent the highest class mortality in corona mortalities by all available international mortality statistics. You were given the primary training in dealing with psychological, mental, and emotional barriers to wellness in class. We call this EFT tapping, we call this BET, we call this energy psychology. We have the tools that we can use to handle negative emotions, old unresolved negative emotions, or NEMOs as I like to call them. Psychological fears, phobias, mental illness, repetitive and stressful thinking habits, especially phobias. Okay? And right now, fear is probably one of the most dominant emotional imbalances that are currently happening. And as we know from every form of traditional medicine, Ayurveda, traditional Chinese medicine, Native American medicine, American or Western naturopathy, classical Indian naturopathy, that severe or strong negative emotions have dramatic impact on physical health. And scientifically, we know this has been studied exhaustively in fields like psychoneuroimmunology. We know that severe fear causes an almost immediate diminution, or even, let's use the term, shutdown of the immune system. So here we are in a pandemic where there's infectious media which is being transposed and transferred and shared around the world. Okay, and one of the things that determines how severe that virus will affect you, or how severe the outcomes of viral exposure will be, is in fact strong negative emotion like fear and the stress that's being caused by that. Well, we have almost perfect treatments for this. We have almost perfect remediation and solutions for strong negative emotions, especially the irrational parts of them. And a lot of the fear that surrounds this corona pandemic that we're hearing about and that we're seeing, and which is maybe affecting us directly, is irrational because it's not based on truth. So extreme fear that's not based on anything real, we define as irrational. We have really good treatments for that. In your SomaVeda training, your certification programs, you were given the fundamentals of Ayurveda and yoga therapy solutions to illness, which have been proven to work for millions of people for thousands of years. All right, let me say this again. You were given Ayurveda, yoga therapy, Native American solutions and protocols, traditional naturopathic medical solutions and protocols to illness and illnesses and illness conditions, which have been proven to work for millions of people for thousands of years. This is not the first pandemic. It's not the first epidemic. It's not the first fear and panic, widespread type of situation in the history of the world. And our traditions literally have worked through thousands of similar incidents in past history of the world successfully. And how do we know they worked through it successfully? Because we're here to talk about it today. In fact, even if you're a biblical scholar, for example, if you go back in the Old Testament, there's actually references to epidemics and pandemics, okay, famines and pestilence and so on and so forth, diseases that cause boils and so on, that were worked through, that were handled, and that the vast majority of people survive. Just like right now, the vast majority of people are going to survive. 98%, 99% of everybody who's targeted or infected or exposed to corona is going to survive. In fact, probably 8 out of 10 will not even know that that's what they've just gone through. That's how mild their symptoms are. And not only will their symptoms be that mild, they'll go through them in just 2 or 3 or 4 days. So not strung out for weeks or months or what have you. A very, very small percentage of people who mostly have pre-existing health conditions will have more severe outcomes and or including mortality. And in every SomaVeda Thai Yoga, Ayurveda, and S&M doctoral degree program we've been offering for the past 20 years, I have taught and lectured extensively on the many issues now concerning all of us worldwide, not just here in our local communities. Every SomaVeda certification course, I mean every single one, so especially you new or prospective students out there, take note of this, has extensive training, documentation, and research regarding how to deal with infections. Every course includes extensive training in how to deal with underlying issues that affect the immune system. Specifically, obesity, metabolic syndrome, diabetes, cancer, heart disease, other types of infections, Lyme's disease. These are complicating factors of underlying issues. And we discuss most of them in quite detail, and as we go through more advanced programs, we discuss them in more detail. And then by the time you graduate from our SCNM, Doctor of Sacred Natural Medicine degree program at SCNM, you are considered to be an expert in these things. Every class has extensive training in the perils and dangers of many classes of prescription and chemical pharmaceutical drugs, including OTC remedies such as NSAIDs and Zantac. All right, for example, banned worldwide this past week because independent research proved it causes or contributes substantially to cancer. Zantac, one of the top OTC, over-the-counter drugs sold by billions of dollars of sales in the whole world, banned worldwide, immediate, don't take another pill, take it off your shelf, throw it away, danger, Will Robinson, danger, Will Robinson, okay? And yet, up until yesterday, perfectly safe as far as the Western medical community is concerned. Although we've been teaching about the perils of these kinds of drugs, even the OTC drugs, as far as their contribution to cancer, to heart disease, to diabetes, and all sorts of complications, including shortness of breath, fever, lowered resistance to infection. And yet, take Zantac, for example, it's mostly prescribed for heartburn, acid reflux, which are really stress indicators of crappy diet, extremely poor, extremely bad, extremely unbalanced, extremely toxic diet and or lifestyle, because heartburn can be emotional, heartburn can be psychological, and easily cured. And we teach this in every class. Why do you seek out dangerous drugs like Zantac for heartburn, acid reflux, common indigestion? I've actually talked to former students, even people who are real vegan, real natural, holistic yogis, and so on and so forth, but they have that Zantac in their medicine cabinet right now. They actually, maybe they haven't even heard yet that it's been banned worldwide as a dangerous substance. But they have it, and when the yogis get the heartburn, rather than look at why do they have the heartburn, they pop the purple pill or they pop the Zantac. Just like they take an NSAID for back pain or for their migraine headaches. Oblivious to the consequences that the manufacturers say candidly are likely to occur if you do them. Now let's say you're doing these things, and we now know also one of the complicating factors for the corona, which by the way is also a complicating factor for all flus, influenza A, influenza B, etc., Zika, is NSAIDs, okay, and steroids. How many people do you know right now are still taking NSAIDs even though they might be quote-unquote holistic-minded, vegan, natural medicine kinds of people and so on, but oh my God, you do not want to go in their medicine cabinet. And that might be your medicine cabinet. So if that's the case, I'm talking to you. Why do people intentionally seek out drugs like Zantac for heartburn, acid reflux, or common indigestion, all of which are indicators of a compromised immune system, which is under stress? Nutritional stress from eating garbage, like I said, physical stress from exposure to toxins and toxic substances, which could be anything from GMOs to pesticides, Roundup Ready, glyphosate, all that kind of stuff, okay? Emotional stress from not having functional coping mechanisms to deal with ordinary life issues and old unresolved negative emotional issues, all of which interfere and or literally defeat, i.e. stop the immune system from functioning. And I want to add to that, because it wasn't here in my notes, but it just occurs to me now, that of course deficiencies and toxicities in the body's microbiome of healthy bacteria, healthy flora in the sinuses and the digestive tract, in other words, pre and probiotics, insufficient, and or having really distressed imbalances in digestive bacteria, which we refer to as gut dysbiosis. Again, gut dysbiosis, compromise the immune system, is a complicating factor in all infections, including corona. Now, if the average medical doctor has 4 hours or less of professional education in nutrition, do you think they have more in the function and mechanisms of the immune system? Actually, no, they do not. Like, I know you'd like to think that your medical doctor is an expert in the functioning of the immune system, but they're not. So just like they're not, 4 hours or less professional education in nutrition is not quite enough to be an expert in nutrition. That's why your MDs and doctors do not give you nutritional advice. 4 hours or less of actual college-level training in the function of the immune system means they're not going to talk to you too much about the immune system. The typical Western physician has little or no education in the immune system. What makes it, how to define it, what makes it work, what compromises it, its role in treating infection and disease, or not, as the case may be. Most doctors would not actually be able to define the immune system if put on the spot. If you actually just said, hey, wait a minute, time out, give me your elevator speech, 20 words or less, define what is the body's immune system and how does it work and how does it help us not die from external or what in traditional Chinese medicine people say, and I really love the term, external pernicious influence. And that doctor is just going to shuffle their feet and probably say the word a lot. It's no wonder then that 99% of medical strategies for all illnesses never reference its involvement. The reason why with Dr. Fauci and all these other pundits don't talk knowledgeably about the immune system is it's like the appendix. They think it's supercilious organ function, and it's not really important, and it's not really relevant, and they don't really know what it is anyway, and so they're only going to talk about what they can sell you, because they know a lot about that. Whereas traditional indigenous systems of sacred medicine and religious therapeutics, such as Ayurveda, monastic medicine, Native American medicine, or any other indigenous traditional medicine of any tribe or tribal group, like the Sachila in Ecuador, or the Quechua people, or the Yanomami in Brazil and Bolivia, and it's the Pachamamas in Peru, and so on. Like any indigenous medicine, have always in every case emphasized functional medicine, which primarily targets and works by building, strengthening, bolstering, and removing impediments to fully functional immune system as the primary strategy, after reducing, eliminating, and or detoxifying the causes of the depression and or the depressed and or ineffective immune system. Although they may use different words and different terminologies, that is the one common thing that you can say about all of these systems that they all shared with traditional Chinese medicine. Absolutely core of Ayurveda. Absolutely core of Unani Muslim medicine. Absolutely core practice in Native American medicine. But again, we may use different terms. Okay? So for example, we may or may not call an inipi or sacred sweat lodge an eliminating or detoxifying, or a remediation for depressed or ineffective immune system. However, sweat lodge will remove impediments. Sweat lodge will build and strengthen your immune system. Sweat lodge will eliminate and will detoxify and will cause or trigger elimination function in your body and in your immune system to remove toxic substances that are harming you. It will engender or create or cause a therapeutic still point or reestablishment of a homeodynamic therapeutic equilibrium between your mind, your body, and your spirit. That is high science, fine science, cutting edge of science as regarding how immune system functions in relation to protecting us and healing us from wound and from trauma and from stress, even if that stress is antioxidant. These holistic and spiritually based strategies, what we call true medicine, approaches and protocols will be validated right now as the cutting edge of health restoration and prevention. Be prepared for it. You will start hearing people who have many PhDs, who've been nominated for Nobel Prizes, who run international medical think tanks and research and third-party independent research establishments, literally listing the primary functions of SomaVeda Thai Yoga, SomaVeda Integrated Traditional Therapies protocols as being the only reasonable, repeatable treatment strategy for illnesses like corona. You're going to be hearing this. I'm not the first one, but I'm the happy one to hear this. Already this week, I've listened to many experts explaining to me how what I do is actually not only cutting edge, but it's so much the future of possibility of what medicine can be in real terms, as everybody else is behind the curve who doesn't know the strategies that we know. We're far more effective in dealing with any disease than chemicals, vaccinations, and vaccinations which may in and of themselves cause more harm than good. And it is horrendously scary, this current conversation about how there's going to be a fast-track vaccine which is going to end the corona pandemic. Complete BS. Know that for what it is. That is marketing. That is crap. Not even the vaccines that have been around for 5, 10, 20 years are definitively healthy. And not even definitively able to do what they say. In fact, we know that even vaccines like take Gardasil vaccine, for example, heavily researched, long-term trials, 5 years, now going on 10-year trials, has a list of harmful side effects, iatrogenic medical responses, trauma, and death that it is documented to cause. And that's a heavily researched vaccine, okay? Much less a fast-track vaccine with no clinical trials to treat a viral infection, which, sidebar, I'm not going to go into it. It's in the 2 courses that I have for you at Learn Thai Yoga. But, for example, the virus causing corona has actually not been successfully extracted in a laboratory yet, as of today, April 5th, 2020. And so there is all this talk about they're developing a vaccine for a virus that scientifically has not yet actually been proven to cause COVID-19. And the test that's currently being used to determine whether you're positive or negative for exposure, according to some sources, very knowledgeable sources, could create false positives of up to 80%, guaranteed at least minimum 20%, which makes it completely ineffective for that purpose because there is no test in the world today, again, as of 2:35, April 5th, 2020, that can actually prove that a person has COVID-19, SARS-CoV-2, COVID-19 virus or viral infection and or to any degree. As of right now, this minute, that test does not exist. The current test that's being touted as the corona test is an RNA test which doesn't meet any international standards for proving a darn thing. So what is that test good for? I don't know. I suspect it's political because it's certainly not scientifically medical. So if you've been tested positive for COVID, then you shouldn't worry more than someone who's been tested and shown to not be. You're going to be fine. Mostly, you're going to be fine. From day one of this corona event, your school, my school, our school, SENM, Thai Yoga Center, SomaVeda College of Ayurveda, has been providing you with additional research articles and 2 comprehensive courses on both fighting infections in general and, second, specifically targeting corona and collateral issues. Those courses are in the learnthaiyoga.teachable.com subscription program. Just look them up. They're 2 of the 34 courses that are in there right now. And I've been updating these courses almost every day for the last 2 weeks. The first course on infection strategies for Ayurveda and yoga therapy practitioners is not new because, again, like I said before, we've been talking about infectious strategies, remedies for infectious issues and related issues forever. It's part of every program. The thing that's new is the course on corona and novel viral infections. And that course has several parts. One, it has definitions and basic information as far as what is COVID, where did it come from, how does it come to be, why do we think it's an infectious vector, basic strategies to identify and to prevent. But then it goes further because we go into treatment, preventive treatment strategies, post-infection treatment strategies, And then we also go into the science that is currently available, the best science that is currently available, that actually disputes the necessity of this emergency declarations under the pandemic issue. And I'm not telling you to not follow the government recommendations. In fact, I'll tell you that you should follow the government recommendations, because social distancing, physical distancing, and hygiene, that's what we're talking about, washing our hands, it's called hygiene, okay? That is actually the first clinically defined medicine practice, is called hygiene. Not communicating your illness to others when you know you're sick, washing and keeping yourself as clean as possible. Two of the oldest strategies in medicine. Of course, anybody who studies the history of medicine and medical epidemiology would know that the first courses taught on hygiene were at the Pythagoras School of Medicine in ancient Greece. Yeah, same person who's famous for the Pythagorean theorem. But most people don't know that he was also a doctor. And he ran a medical school, a clinic, and what we would call a sanatorium for illness. For 1,000 years, that school existed in the world in ancient Greece. Well, his recommendations are as effective today as they ever were. And they're, again, part of every program. So I'm not saying don't. Those types of things that the government's recommending are absolutely prudent, absolutely authentic. Follow the CDC guidelines. No harm. Works for flu, works for cold, works for a dozen other infectious types of diseases. So we're absolutely all for it. However, the recommendations to freak out and to shut down and to lock yourself in your house and not touch or hug your children, or to not lay hands on people as a religious expression, we completely disagree with those, because there's no science behind it. There's no science behind it. And I explain the science in these courses. I'm not going to do it in this course, in this little video that I'm doing right here. This is more of a just let's kind of catch up on what's up today. And let me chide you a little bit for not being an expert on corona as of April 5th, because where have you been? What else are you doing? What are you doing if not becoming an expert in the most impelling health crisis in the world in our generation? Like, what else? What are you doing? All right. Now, keep in mind, when we're talking about doing SomaVeda Therapeutic Day sessions or doing SomaVeda Thai Yoga therapeutic consultations, if you're going to do them in person, which I recommend that you still do so, using prudence, okay? But keep in mind, you can only and exclusively work with or on NAIC APM members, or authorized participant members. No exceptions. Otherwise, you're working with the public and are completely subject to governmental oversight and regulations. Your ministry and your counseling is a private religious matter. Now is no time to wing it or to relax your professional standards and requirements. And up to this point, if you don't have professional standards and requirements, you better not touch another person until you do. Members, yes, good to go. Non-members, no, cannot help, cannot advise, cannot counsel you. All right, so those of you know that the NAIC has a long history of fighting for rights to practice indigenous, traditional, tribal, and Native American medicine. Long history. Starts around the early 1900s. Okay? We fought, and various associations derived from the NAC have fought many, many battles in order to be able to practice our religious expression, which is actually traditional medicine, natural medicine, indigenous medicine. Okay? And so, you know me, even though I've got at least 5 doctorates, I don't counsel, I don't practice, I don't give therapy to someone who's not a current member of the NAIC. Why? Because if I do, the full force of the federal government, full force of the state government, and all medical practices acts are against me and come against me and can shut me down. More than that, probably put me in jail. So I have bigger fish to fry than fighting the federal government or fighting the state government. And so I just follow the rules. And the rules are, I can do what I want as long as I only do what I want with informed consent of members of my tribal organization and church. So I'm just reiterating for you, don't think that now is the time to be under the radar or to skip a step. In fact, you need to bump up your game. You need to bump up your game. Okay, now let's talk about doing therapeutic day sessions. I mean, actual hands-on sessions to your clients. First thing, they have to be NAIC members, so if they're not, you have to take care of that before you do any consulting or any treatment of any kind. And you already know how to do that. We've given you the resources to do that in your post-graduation Dropbox and or at Learn Thai Yoga. All right, prepare your space. Make sure it's cleanable. And what I mean by that is remove, reduce, or eliminate unnecessary clutter. Anything that will make it easier to clean, disinfect between counseling sessions, remove it. Set it aside. Pack it up. Have a simple treatment space that can be completely and easily cleaned. Have plenty of colloidal silver in a spray bottle or a personal atomizer, which you can use on all surfaces easily. And of course, we teach about making and using colloidal silver in every class, so you know this. Of course, as you're making your own silver solution, as you were taught in class, you have plenty to use for this and any other uses. I mean, some of you have had years to get your silver making together, okay? And if you haven't, again, shame on you, but not too late. Do the best you can. Get yourself organized so you can make your own silver as quickly as possible. And you can use it, of course, for many uses. You can take it orally. You can use it topically. Right now I have a little bit of a sunburn. You might notice I'm a little red because my brother and I were out on our boat out in the Gulf of Mexico yesterday, mostly just tooling around, absorbing beauty and fresh air and sunshine and O3. And that's part of our keeping healthy, keeping fit strategy is we're trying to get out at least once a week for a couple hours on our boat. Okay? Well, I get sunburned. Well, it's part of the deal. You get out in nature and you're instantly and immediately affected by nature. So, but I handle it. How do I handle it? Well, I spray every sunburned surface liberally with colloidal silver. And it turns off the sunburn, instantly eliminates all pain and irritation, and the skin heals beautifully, and I never peel. So, and I'm the fairest guy you know. I mean, look at me, okay? Back to the silver. If you don't have your own personal silver machine, okay, and or have difficulty getting one, no worries. And the reason I say that is because one of my friends who makes silver machines sold last week his entire 2020 years anticipated supply of machines. And now he's having new machines made on an emergency basis, but he's only being able to turn out about 40 a week. Okay? And those are going on a first come, first serve reserve basis. So you may have a little difficulty. Of course, I've got silver machines on the Thai Yoga Center store. Go to thaiyogacenter.com. Go to the store website and you'll see listing for soda and Silver Edge and Ionics and so on. I've got some silver makers on beardedmedia.com. That's beardedmedia.com. You know that site. That's where you get cool t-shirts like this and a silver machine and or any of my books or videos. But no worries if you can't do that. We're making silver solutions for blessing purposes, and my new Me-Mom solution, which I'm not going to go into that right now, but which is a complex remedy based on colloidal silver. We're making this every day, and we can provide you access to quantity for you, for your clients, for your family, for all you need. The main thing is to plan ahead because we're making this to order. I personally am making the remedies. I'm doing the homeopathic potentization. I'm doing the magnetic polarization. I'm doing the ionic, creating the ionic suspensions and so on. I'm doing every step in the MIMOM myself. Okay? So plan ahead. I can make these solutions for you, for your personal ministry blessing use. And also, it'll take a couple of days to get it to you. Right now, the mail is still running, and they're still doing pickups. So right now, we're pretty good. But who knows a month from now. Now, if you have specific questions regarding setting up your Corona practice site or room, let me know by email. I'm happy to counsel. Of course, if you're watching this video and you're not an NAIC APM member, at least, then you have to go to SomaVeda.com and sign up, make a donation to join NAIC at the APM level. Now, back to practitioners, whether you're SomaVeda or some other. I recommend now and for future working on a vinyl covered mat, which can be cleaned between sessions with the disinfectant solution. This is now the standard for Thailand. Okay, all Thai clinics now are using vinyl mats, not using cloth mats, not covering the mats with cloth, and the reason why it can't be sterilized, can't be cleaned between clients or from client to client. We offer these types of therapy mats for professional practice at the lowest cost I can find on our school website at beardedmedia.com. At beardedmedia.com. So you can find these vinyl covered mats. Okay? But any vinyl mat, even a large yoga mat, or any exercise mat or Pilates mat, can work for this purpose. But we're saying for now, don't use cloth mats, don't use coverings on cloth mats, unless you're going to be able to wash and sterilize the cover on your mat between or after every single client. Okay? Every single client. And also, you know, you can clean these all mats with silver. Okay? Silver and ozone, actually. Okay? Now, in doing your session, don't forget puja. It is always the most important part of any treatment. No matter what, at least do this. Puja is the beginning. Puja is the end. Do a really good puja. Ask for a blessing. Listen to the client. Practice generating bodhicitta. Take every step. See what you're doing as the sacred act of healing that it is. And before you admit your client to your practice or home, take their temperature to verify that they have no fever. Okay? Now, I use an actual fluor infrared thermography camera to take my client's temperature. But you can use any kind of infrared or non-contact probe to do that. They're available on Amazon and everywhere else if you don't already have one. Okay? But make sure that they have no fever, and that means over 100 degrees. 100 degrees or higher. If they've just come out of a car that was 160 degrees, give them at least 10 or 15 minutes to come to room temperature before you take their temperature, because everybody getting out of their hot car right now is going to have a fever. Everyone wears a mask. Client wears a mask, practitioner wears a mask, everybody wears a mask. And I know it might seem elementary, that doesn't really change the way that you work very much, but for a lot of practitioners, you know, even a little change like this, they can't visualize it, they can't do it. So I'm going to make a video this week of how to actually do physical Thai sessions following Corona protocols. The practitioner should wear gloves, okay? I don't care if you're allergic to latex, then get nitrile. If you're not allergic to latex, get latex. Get any kind of glove that you can get, okay? Technically, even rubber gloves would work, okay? Like you're going to wash your sink, okay? But wear gloves. It's for various purposes. One is so that you don't get a contact exposure from your client. 2 is so that if you're asymptomatic exposure yourself, you don't communicate that to your client. Okay? But the risk is low. If you have a good air filter that uses ionizing UV or ozone like we have in our classroom here, then now is a good time to employ it, because ozone kills airborne bacteria and virus like corona. Don't be afraid of physical contact. Just following the guidelines I've given you will reduce or eliminate 99% of any cross-contagion or PVP spread. That's people to people spread. And also, not touching people is not therapeutic. It's anti-therapeutic. In fact, there have been many, many scientific or clinical studies that showed that people who were not touched frequently became ill for lack of that alone. For lack of that alone. Oh my God, there's so much room here to dig deep in your challenge to become an expert. So many tributaries that we can look at. And the touching in a controlled way, which is in your practice or in your home practice, following guidelines, taking the temperature, wearing gloves and mask, practicing proper hygiene, using air filters, also burning sage. Do you know that sage kills all known vectors of influenza, including SARS, MERS, and COVID? And that not only does smudging kill airborne bacteria and virus, pathogenic virus, the protection in a room that's been thoroughly smudged can last up to 4 days. But of course, I would smudge twice a day if I was practicing, in my practice, twice a day. So that when you walk in the room, you should be able to smell the smudge. Other smudge that has been scientifically proven to kill airborne vectors of pathogenic bacteria and virus, Nagchampa. Chinese TCM Moksha. Okay, Moksha. And so on and so forth. Mugwort. Burning sage. Okay? Part of how we handle the airborne vectors. Native American medicine is proven thousands and thousands of years. Tradition has been passed on that one of the ways that you prevent illness is to smudge. One of the ways that you reduce the severity of an illness of a patient is to smudge them. One of the ways that you can bring healing to a community that's sick is to smudge the community. One of the ways that you can cure an incurable illness is to smudge them. So, are you smudging yourself? Are you smudging your family? Are you smudging your friends? Are you smudging your office? Are you smudging your clients? If not, why not? I taught you this. Why are you not doing it? Why are you not practicing this? Okay? Encourage your clients to follow guidelines for hygiene and social distancing. However, encourage them to consider time with you as a priority and to keep their appointments as regular as possible. In other words, the things that work for them to handle their diabetes, to handle their cancer, to handle their heart disease, to handle their Lyme's disease, to handle their chronic UTI, to handle their chronic candida infections, to handle their stress, to handle their depression, to handle their manic, to keep up with it, to keep those appointments. Keep working on their diet. Keep working to lose weight. I've given you guys really incredible information on nutrition. And even if you're not wanting to get that personal with individual recommendations, of course we have in the Dropbox very detailed example of our Herbalife-based nutrition program with supplements. And if you don't want to dig deep into your nutritional bag for a client, then refer them to our at least baseline supplement program to handle those issues for them. Religious meetings and religious counseling and therapeutic practices are listed as exempted activities in every state. So right now, even under federal guidelines and under all individual states that have ordered stay-at-home orders, religious meetings, religious counseling, and therapeutic practices are, and the practice of religious practices are listed as exempted practices and activities. Keep your NAIC ID handy if you're working. Okay? And I actually can tell you this for a fact, that I've been in communication with students who also hold massage licenses, who have spas and aesthetics businesses and so on and so forth, who were shut down either last week or earlier this week, literally were men with badges, showed up at their office with posters to glue on their doors, to tape on their doors, to give them cease and desist orders from cities and townships and states in compliance with federal rules and so on, that when they showed them their NAIC ID and said that they were only going to be offering religious therapeutics, chirothesia, under NAIC tribal organization, in every case, the investigators, authorities, badge holders said, oh, yeah, that's exempted practice. Yeah, you're good to go. Just, follow the hygiene protocols and we won't be back. You're good to go. Okay? Why? Because that's actually what the law says. I read the Florida law, for example, specifically exempts this kind of counseling that we're doing today, for example. But if you were doing chirothesia, hands-on healing, that would be exempted too, as long as you're working with a church member and not a group of 10 of them. Okay, so no mass hands-on healings, but one-on-one, you're good to go. And the reason I'm still recommending PVP or chirothesia, i.e. hands-on healing, is that the benefit for overall improvement of all health and immune system vectors, indexes, for most people outweigh any perceived risk which might come from touching another person. This is scientific, it's not just my feeling. I am acting as not so much a scientist here, but as a scientific research. I have an MD, I have PhDs, I have doctorates in naturopathy and traditional Chinese medicine, but mostly my forte is in research and synthesis. And a lot of you know that I also present at international medical conferences on infectious disease, on cancer, and on topics like these, where the whole audience, 250 people, are all scientists and MDs. So I'm giving the same information to you the same way I would be giving it to them. Are you afraid of being infected? I mean, reasonably, especially if all you do is listen to the bobbly-heads teleprompter reading pundits. Bobbly-headed teleprompter reading pundits. You can quote me on that, who are fear-mongering to serve commercial and or corporate interest. Well, it makes perfect sense. However, we also have access to a worldwide community of true medical practitioners and scientists who are giving us a very different narrative. In the last week, I personally have communicated with doctors in Wuhan, China. I personally have communicated with doctors in Italy and Portugal and Spain. I personally have communicated with doctors in Ecuador. I personally have communicated with doctors in Nevis and West Indies and Great Britain, just in the last week. And then plus our group of medical persons and authorities that are working at the NIH right now here in the United States, emergency room doctors and other MDs who have various practices, some of whom have very large Class A medical clinics. And we're all saying, and they're all saying, yeah, corona's real. We're not saying it's not, and yes, it's possible that you can get infected, but virtually 99% of what you've heard is the negative possible outcomes is unrealistic. Virtually unscientifically not possible that it's going to affect you the way it's presented or anyone you know. Doesn't mean there's not some people are going to get sick and die, but statistically, and some of the videos I'm presenting in the novel COVID course will go into great detail into these statistics, okay? However, you're still more likely to die from cancer than from COVID. So if you're afraid of COVID, you should be more afraid of cancer. You're still more likely to die of just the common flu than COVID, and that will not change. And if you're afraid of COVID, you should be deathly afraid of the common flu. So fear is not unrealistic, but exaggerated fear that causes dysfunction and causes you to be sick and lowers your immune system response is irrational, emotional, mental, and needs to be treated as such. And part of the treatment is, it's like we're saying we all have a kapha imbalance, because we all started out a little bit ignorant on this learning curve. And the way we balance our kapha, okay, is with education and information. So I won't go into everything about this COVID in this video, as I'm publishing 2 in-depth courses on the LearnThaiYoga.teachable platform, which right now have many sections, lessons, and videos which are private and for our community exclusively. I've updated lessons and courses almost daily for the past 2 weeks. I have myself listened and participated in over 100 hours of forums, discussions, and think tanks in our community circle in the past 2 weeks. Lastly, in our network, which reaches from China to Ecuador, from Nevis to all over the U.S., we've been sharing insight, information, and protocols which do work and will continue to work. And I'm sharing the love in online courses. That's part of how I'm making my contribution to this, and by being available to talk to you, provided that you're an NAIC member. All right, bottom line today, SomaVeda protocols are being validated by some of the world's leading experts in virology and the immune system. And I know some of you have medical training, okay? But I'm just telling you that some of the top 10 virologists in the whole world are questioning the way that this is going down. This includes the overall holistic health practices and recommendations for getting well, reducing or curing diabetes and cancer, as well as other immune suppression conditions and syndromes. Strategies to reduce or eliminate all infections, those you know and those you don't, i.e. subclinical UTI, subclinical Candida. And all of you know, most MDs know nothing about how to do this. Know not much, if anything, about prevention. Or immune system resistance to illness. Dealing with emotional issues. I want to stress that again. Dealing with emotional issues with energy psychology tools such as BET and EFT, tapping and TFT. Not only does emotional stress, fears, and uncontrolled phobia diminish the functioning of the immune system dramatically, but do you know that emotional stress can support or cause a false positive on a COVID-19 test? How about that? And when you go get a COVID-19 test, aren't you afraid of being found to be contagious or exposed to COVID-19, which can cause heart palpitations, actually people have had heart attacks and have died over the emotional stress of thinking what would happen if they're infected. Oh my God, that's so sad. So sad. Completely preventable. And if you're one of these people yourself, handle it before you communicate to your clients. Of course, what I know is if you're one of these people who are so afraid that you've now become paralyzed as a therapist, then you're not communicating with clients. You're hiding. Or you're communicating, about let's all, psychically hold hands and wrap the world in a white light. Okay? Well, there's nothing wrong with that. But your neighbors who are sick and have a fear of dying from sickness could use just a little bit more of an edgy therapy than you trying to mentally visualize white light or mindfulness. Like, now you're going to get mindful? Where have you been? We've been practicing mindfulness for 40 years. We've been recommending it. And as the background of your therapeutic practice called working on yourself. Okay, so working on yourself is always indicated. Not when there's an emergency. If the house is on fire, don't stand outside the house and do ohms and work on your mindfulness. Put on your gear, break out the axe and your Scott pack, get your helmet and your respirator on, and rush the hell in there and save somebody. Later, invite them to your meditation class. This should be common sense. I'm not quite following why it's not. As of today, you've not yet started your research or access the classes and lessons that we are providing you in the SomaVeda system. It's been weeks since this issue began. It's been weeks since I published the first articles. Why are you not an expert today? Sitting here right now, why are you not an expert right this minute? Backwards and forwards. If this comes across as a little bit of a spanking, so be it. Stop sitting in the shadows, mumbling mantras for mindfulness and inner peace, when now is the time for action. Now is the time to practice, to master your SomaVeda. Now is the time to prove it. Prove that it works. Prove that Ayurveda works. Prove that yoga therapy works. Prove that TCM works. Prove that naturopathy works. Right now is the time to get motivated to attend and complete the next level of your SomaVeda, Ayurveda, and indigenous medical training. We've got a full schedule planned for the rest of the year. And in fact, there's never been a better opportunity for you to be an expert, for you to become an expert, both for your own interests and satisfaction in life and to preserve the life and health of those around you. And honestly, if you're so afraid and you're so immobilized that you can't visualize by July or September leaving your house and coming to a live training to get really hands-on with how to do all these things, I've actually created, just for the corona situation, an online, 100% online CTP1 basic SomaVeda certification program. So technically you can do your review, or you can become a SomaVeda practitioner in the safety of your home. You can do that now, and the links to that, of course, are at thaiyogacenter.com. Okay, and I've also sent out some mass emails regarding that. You can also email me if you want information about the home study certification program in SomaVeda. First time ever in history that I've offered this. First time in 40 years of teaching full-time have I ever offered an online certification in SomaVeda. So that's what I and my community, my fellowship of true medicine providers, that's what we're doing today. We're up to big things. We're having fun, man. We are engaged. We're up to big things. Mostly, we're up to research first, action second. Earn the right to call yourself a healer, therapist, physician by practicing what you preach. You want to get your chops, you want to get respected, you want to establish, build your confidence in your ability to help people in the worst or most dire situations. If you want to practice making a living that is not about rubbing on people for money, if you want to practice making a living being a minister, a therapist, a healer, a true physician, well, we can help you to do that, and we invite you to join us in that. We're not alone. We're part of a huge community, by the way, and we're all networking. Lots of emails, lots of video going back and forth. Okay? Join us, get educated, and then start acting. If you're confused, quit it. It's like your mom used to tell you, you know. She'd ask you, why are you crying? You'd say, oh, it hurts when I do this. And mom's great advice would be, well, then quit it. Stop doing that. So if you're confused and that's causing you pain and suffering, then you know, quit it. Confusion can be handled. Education and practice will solve your confusion. You've been given lots of tools that work and new insights and lessons to get you up to speed. You've got nothing better to do, especially those of you who are already in self-quarantine and isolation, and I don't know why. but you've got nothing better to do. So one last time, if you're an NAIC member, student, practitioner, or teacher, I can counsel you and I can give you personal recommendations. If you are not an NAIC member, then I cannot. Sorry, we treasure our legal protections now more than ever. We're all in this together. And also, just as a sidebar note, if you're a SomaVeda teacher who's watching this video, all of these recommendations are double for you. And in the Learn Thai Yoga courses on Corona are our SomaVeda official recommendations, which you should be aware of, you should be knowledgeable of, because you should be teaching them. All right, so if you have any questions, be sure to tell me. Your comments are appreciated. If it's specifically about a physical issue, a medical issue, Corona for you or for a client, email me separately, because I have to be able to verify you're an NAIC member. All right, thank you. God bless, and may the rest of your Sunday just be super amazing and super positive. I'm here for you. We're all in this together.